Anita Velasquez pressed the fabric under her sewing machine, the needle clattering in a rhythm that felt steadier than her heartbeat. Her small apartment in Tampa smelled of starch and jasmine tea. Outside, summer cicadas droned through the open window. Inside, Anita hummed softly, her foot keeping time on the pedal. For 40 years, she had stitched dreams for other people, wedding gowns, prom dresses, baby quilts, but never her own. The corners of her world had shrunk to this apartment and the tiny sewing shop she rented behind a nail salon. Her husband had passed away a decade earlier. Her only son lived 2 states away, wrapped up in his own family and deadlines. So she poured her care into her cousins, Rosalinda and Marco, who lived, as she thought, on the brink of ruin in Puerto Rico after the hurricane tore through. Every month, she sent money. Every month, they thanked her with long, teary phone calls and pictures of roofs caved in and children barefoot. Until one morning, everything unraveled. Anita sat at her kitchen table, scrolling through Facebook as she sipped her tea. Her cousin's post appeared between a church fundraiser and a cat video. Finally home. #grateful, #new beginnings. There they were, Rosalinda and Marco, standing in front of a white columned mansion with a curved driveway. Behind them, a gleaming silver SUV. Rosalinda's smile was as bright as the Florida sun, her wrist glinting with what looked suspiciously like diamonds. Anita's tea went cold, her thumb trembled over the photo. She clicked through the album, pictures of marble floors, a pool lit from beneath, a champagne toast. There wasn't a hint of the struggle they had described. For a long time, she sat motionless, then she whispered to the empty room, "You lied to me." By noon, she had blocked their numbers and shut her laptop. By nightfall, she'd gathered every Western Union receipt, every bank statement, evidence of her foolishness, and fed them, one by one, into the flame of a scented candle. She watched the edges curl and blacken. It smelled like smoke and betrayal. The next morning, Anita woke up lighter. She brewed her coffee, opened her curtains, and saw sunlight catching on the spools of thread in her sewing corner. For the first time in years, she saw not a burden but an opportunity. Her rent was paid. She had savings, more than she had realized, now that she wasn't draining her account every month. She'd always dreamed of owning her own boutique, a place where her name was stitched on the tag instead of hidden in a seam.by. Evening, she was standing in front of a small, vacant shop on 8th Street, a sunlit corner once occupied by a bakery. The "For Lease" sign fluttered against the window. She dialed the number. 3 weeks later, Anita's atelier opened its doors. The interior was modest. White walls, brass racks, a single mannequin by the window, but it pulsed with her essence. Her first collection featured 6 dresses, flowing linen, bold embroidery, and a blend of island color and modern cut. First, foot traffic was slow. But a local fashion blogger spotted her window display, took a photo, and posted it online. Hidden gem alert, handcrafted designs with heart. #support local, #Tampa style. The next day, Anita sold 2 dresses. By the weekend, people lined up outside. Each stitch, each sale, stitched her back together. She stopped thinking about her cousins. Or so she thought. It was a humid Friday when the past walked in. Anita was pinning the hem of a coral sundress on a mannequin when the bell above the door chimed. She looked up, and her heart froze. Rosalinda, expensive sunglasses, designer handbag, polished nails. A stranger wearing her cousin's face. "Anita," Rosalinda breathed, her smile tremulous. "You look incredible." Anita straightened. "I can't say the same." Rosalinda flinched, removing her glasses. "Please, just hear me out." Anita folded her arms. "You have 2 minutes." Rosalinda sighed, her voice soft. I know how it looked online. But the money you sent, it helped us start something. We invested in real estate, Anita. We were going to surprise you. We wanted to bring you in as a partner, but, stop, Anita said sharply. Don't you dare make this about generosity. I mean it. You think we forgot you? We owe you everything. That's why I'm here, to make things right. Anita's laugh was brittle. You made things clear, not right. Rosalinda hesitated, then dropped a glossy folder on the counter. Inside, documents with Anita's name on them, partnership agreements, investment forms. You could still join us, she said softly. You deserve to share our success. Anita stared at the papers. Something in the formatting, a misspelling of her address, a fake notary stamp, pricked at her instincts. She'd seen enough scam letters to recognize one. I'll think about it, she said coolly, sliding the folder back. Leave your number. I'll call. Rosalinda's smile brightened. Thank you, cousin. You won't regret this. When the door closed behind her, Anita didn't hesitate. She picked up the folder and dialed her friend, Detective Rivera, who had once commissioned a wedding dress for his daughter. Hey, Luis, she said. Can I ask you something about fraud? By Monday, Rivera had confirmed her suspicions. The documents were fake. Worse, Rosalinda and Marco were under quiet investigation for wire fraud, targeting elderly relatives and sympathetic donors after the hurricane. Anita's stomach turned. They're still doing it? They're good, Rivera said grimly. They charm people, build trust, then vanish. But with your help, we might finally catch them. Anita's first reaction was fear. Then came fury. I'll do whatever it takes, she said. They crafted a plan. Anita would pretend to accept the offer, luring Rosalinda into a meeting with undercover agents posing as potential investors. The night before the meeting, Anita couldn't sleep. The sewing machine sat silent in the corner, the hum gone. She stared at the dress she'd been working on, a silver gown inspired by resilience. She decided then that if this ended well, she'd debut it at the City Fashion Fair. At dawn, she brewed strong coffee and whispered to her reflection, this time, I'm stitching the ending myself. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and deceit. Rosalinda arrived right on time, her hair perfectly curled, a diamond pendant flashing at her throat. She greeted the two investors warmly, spinning her story about rebuilding lives, reinvesting for family, helping communities. Anita played her part perfectly, smiling, nodding, pretending interest. She even signed a decoy document Rivera had prepared, but as Rosalinda reached for her designer purse, an agent signaled quietly. Another stepped forward, badge flashing. Rosalinda Cruz Velasquez, you are under arrest for fraud and conspiracy. The color drained from Rosalinda's face. Anita, what did you? Anita met her gaze steadily. Told the truth. As they cuffed her, Rosalinda whispered, you ruined us. Anita replied, no. You ruined yourself. The case made local headlines. The Velasquez cousins had scammed dozens of families across states. When reporters reached out to Anita, she declined interviews. She wanted no fame, just peace. Her boutique, however, exploded in popularity. People were drawn to her story, a woman betrayed, yet reborn through her craft. The silver resilience gown went viral after it was featured at the Tampa City Fair, its fabric shimmering like moonlight, its design symbolic of strength rising from loss. Orders poured in. She hired assistants, expanded to a larger space, and began mentoring young designers from low-income backgrounds. One day, a customer handed her a handwritten note. "Your story gave me courage to start again." "Thank you." Anita folded the note carefully, placing it in her drawer beside her measuring tape. A year later, a letter arrived from federal prison. "Dear Anita, I still can't believe you turned me in. I know you think I deserved it, but I truly wanted you with us. We started with lies, yes, but we built something real. Maybe one day you'll understand that." Rosalinda. Anita read it twice, then tore it neatly in half. She didn't reply. That night, she hosted a small dinner at her new boutique, celebrating the first anniversary of her brand. Her son had flown in from Chicago, her apprentices laughed over music and wine, and the room glowed with warmth and color. At one point, her son raised a glass. "To Mom," he said, eyes proud, "for teaching us all that it's never too late to start again." Anita smiled, feeling tears rise, but this time, they were light, not heavy. "Salute," she said softly. Months later, Anita was featured in Southern Style magazine. The article described her as the woman who stitched her pain into power. Orders came in from across the country. But what meant more than fame were the moments, young girls touching her fabrics with wonder, widows telling her they'd found courage in her story, her apprentices calling her Tia Anita. One evening, after closing the shop, Anita sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker. She took out her old phone and scrolled to a folder she hadn't deleted, family. The photos of her cousins still sat there, smiling beside their mansion. She hesitated, then tapped delete. The screen went black. So did the ghosts. She stood, locked up, and stepped outside. The night air was cool, filled with the hum of possibility. Down the street, the sign above her store glowed softly, Anita's Atelier, handmade with heart. She smiled, walking toward the corner cafe where her new friends waited. 6 months later, Anita was invited to showcase her collection at Miami Fashion Week. Her designs, bold, intricate, defiant, earned a standing ovation. Reporters asked her what inspired her work. She smiled at the cameras and said simply, "Betrayal taught me color. Forgiveness taught me design." The crowd erupted. Backstage, she touched the fabric of her final gown, white silk embroidered with gold thread forming a phoenix. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from gratitude. Every scar had become a stitch. Every lie, a lesson. She walked out under the lights, applause thundering around her, and for the first time in her life, Anita Velasquez didn't feel small, she felt infinite. 2 years later, Anita's boutique chain spanned 3 cities. She'd built scholarships for aspiring designers and opened a small foundation for victims of financial abuse. Sometimes, people asked if she regretted helping her cousins all those years. She always gave the same answer, no. If I hadn't trusted the wrong people, I might never have learned to trust myself. In her workshop, an embroidered quote hung on the wall, framed in gold thread. Out of broken threads, new patterns emerge. And beneath it, her signature, steady, confident, and entirely her own.